Ontario, and several representatives from the NRC. We also, and I was just telling Robert Mearson this, who helped coordinate the folks at NRC for us. This is the first time in LSO history that I had a sponsor call me up and ask to sponsor an event. And I was Avid Biologics. And it was David Allen, who is on our board, and he made a statement that the relationship that they have had, the experience they've had with the NRC has just been outstanding, and they wanted to be a part of this. So I want to say a special thank you to Avid Biologics and David Allen for sponsoring today's breakfast, as well as Baskins for hosting us again, as they have so often in this great venue. So thank you to both Avid and Baskins. Our first speaker this morning is Susan Marlin, President and CEO of Clinical Trials Ontario. I met Susan the first time a couple of years back when she took over CTO from Ron Hesselgrave. And, you know, when CTO was first formed, I think there was a lot of excitement about it because most people in our area, in life sciences, knew that Ontario had some real assets in the clinical trial space. In fact, I remember that, you know, also connected to David Allen, at the time, Sean Thompson came into Ministry of Economic Development when I was still working there, and expressed some frustration at the lack of investment in the clinical trial space that Ontario had made to date, and that it really represented a huge opportunity for the province. And traditionally, I think, you know, Ontario was very focused on traditional manufacturing, jobs and capital investment, and they didn't quite understand the impacts, the economic impacts, as well as the commercialization impacts that clinical trials and clinical research in the province can have and can benefit Ontario. So the formation of Clinical Trials Ontario, it really showed a fundamental shift in the way the province views clinical research. And it was a real commitment to this space. And Susan has done a phenomenal job at carrying this new mandate forward and progressing it. And I'm really happy that she's here this morning to share that experience and the work that they're doing at CTO. So please join me in welcoming Susan Marlin to the podium. I was looking for you up front, Susan. You're way in the back.
Thanks very much, Jason, and good morning, everyone. We're very glad to be here this morning and share with you information about Clinical Trials Ontario. I think I have about 20 minutes, is that right? Okay. But I'm happy to be stopped at any time and answer any questions you may have. Just, you got that?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yep.
There we go. Okay, good. So, as Jason mentioned, Clinical Trials Ontario is funded by the Government of Ontario, the Ministry of Research and Innovation. We're an independent nonprofit organization. We have seed funding for 4 years. We're 2.5 years into that mandate, so we have about a year and a half left. Clinical Trials Ontario was formed really in response to the significant decline in investment in clinical research that we were seeing in Ontario. And you can see the numbers there. This was not unique to Ontario. It's not unique to Canada. All Western countries have started to see quite a decline in investment in clinical research. A few things have contributed to that. Of course, in 2008, we had the economic decline, but we've also seen a lot of our clinical research going to other jurisdictions around the world. So in Ontario, I was very, very pleased to see our government step up and say, we want to reverse this trend. We want to do something about it. So they funded CTO, and our mandate is to support a streamlined approach to conducting multi-center clinical trials in Ontario. And one of the things that we've been doing over the last couple of years, in addition to developing our program, is we've been talking a lot to industry and finding out what really are the issues and what are they interested in. What bothers you about what's happening now that can be fixed so that we can bring more trials here. And of course, one of the first things they've always said is ethics review. It takes too long to get ethics review done to start clinical trials. They're also concerned about the time to negotiate clinical trials agreements. time to budget or negotiate budgets, overhead costs. So those are things that they're interested in. Of course, they're very interested in our capacity in Ontario. Unfortunately, we have a lot of that capacity. So they want clinical expertise, key opinion leaders, and they also like to see our research sites have sufficient clinical research support, so clinical research coordinators, et cetera. But one of the main things that they've emphasized to us is that they can handle the cost in Ontario for doing clinical trials. The time they'd like to see improvement on, but really one of the key things they'd like to see is predictability and reliability. So when our research sites in Ontario commit to doing a clinical trial, commit to putting a number of patients on that trial, that they actually meet that commitment. And one of the things that they emphasized to us is that our Ontario sites and our Ontario, the representatives of our drug companies, they're competing globally to bring clinical research opportunities for Ontario. So we really need to do the best that we can in supporting our research sites and our environment for making clinical trials easier to do and facilitating our sites in meeting their commitments. So how we propose to do this, there's three things that we're working on. One is streamlining the research ethics review and other clinical trials administrative processes, and we'll focus a lot today on our streamlined research ethics review program. As well, we'd like to improve the environment for participant recruitment and retention on trial. And of course, we're trying to promote Ontario and attract investments here and help our companies that are located here attract those investments to Ontario. So the Streamlined Research Ethics Review Program, that is really our flagship program at Clinical Trials Ontario. So as you would know, currently, when a clinical trial is done in multiple sites, research ethics review has to be conducted by every institution doing that trial. And that takes time. And of course, there's a cost associated with that. So what we're moving to in Ontario is a system whereby one research ethics board can do the review, and all the other institutions in Ontario can use that review. And I just noted a fun fact there that we have over 70 REDs in Ontario that review clinical trials. So this system that we're developing, we can be used for any multi-site clinical research, even beyond clinical trials, and the trials can be industry-sponsored or investigator-initiated. And actually, we have a lot of interest from investigators, as you can imagine. Industry sometimes does have more resources to ensure multi-center reviews can take place. Investigators don't always have those resources. So the two primary components to our program are one, a system and program to review and qualify research ethics boards so that there can be confidence that any board that's qualified through our system can do a quality review for multiple sites. And as well, we have what we call CTO Stream, which is a web-based system that supports our multi-center reviews. So first, the CTO REB qualification program. It provides an external and expert review of our REBs in Ontario. And one of the things I wanted to emphasize here is that this is a really unique program in Canada. So there's no other program like this in Canada. And many other jurisdictions don't have something similar to that as well. And what that means is that we can differentiate Ontario in that our sponsors, our investigators, and our patients know that clinical research reviewed in Ontario by boards will be reviewed by high-quality research ethics boards. So this program is well underway. We have 7 REBs that have been qualified in Ontario. We have 2 in process. We have another 9 that are lining up. So really by the end of, probably by the summer, we should have at least 20 REBs, if not more, that can work within our system and provide those quality reviews. As I mentioned, the other big piece of our system is CTO Stream, which is the actual system that surrounds the ethics reviews. And I kind of emphasized here again what the old days, which honestly we're currently in, but we're changing that. If you have 10 clinical research sites, you have to do 10 ethics reviews, 1 for each, and these can all take months and months to do. So the submission goes into the research ethics board. You have to wait for the meeting. Questions always come back. They need to be resolved. This takes months to do. And one of the things we'd like to emphasize is that we often think research is approved by the ethics board, it's good to go. That's not the case. There's continuing research ethics review that takes place over the lifetime of the study, which can be years and years and years. So there are amendments to the protocol, so changes that need to be approved. Sometimes there's up to 20 of these for a protocol, and these all happen by every single board. So the amount of work, effort, and time we're cutting down overall on the system will be significant over the life course of the trial. So as I mentioned, we have this web-based eRev system. It sounds like it should be simple, building a system that can manage an ethics review that would apply to multiple sites. It's actually quite a complex system to try and build, to take into account how all our hospitals, how all our research ethics work, so universities and sponsors work. So we've worked a lot with our community. We've been so lucky to be able to bring in the expertise and the contribution from all of these communities that I mentioned to help us build our system. We often emphasize that Clinical Trials Ontario, we're actually not doing the work. We're just building resources and support so everybody else can do the work, review the application, and proceed with the research. Right now, this system is final. We've got boards qualified, so our first protocols will be going through the system, or our first clinical trials within the next few weeks, and we're really excited about that and crossing our fingers. You do that too for us. So that's it for the Streamlined Research Ethics Review System. As I said, it's our flagship program. It's relatively unique in Canada and many other jurisdictions, and it will be an opportunity to differentiate Ontario. The other area that we've been trying to work in is with regard to the clinical trials agreements or the contracts. So for every site, when we have a sponsored study, there's an agreement, which is quite lengthy, that's negotiated for every single one of these sites. Even if we fix the ethics issue and get that done in a couple months for multiple sites, we're still going to have the negotiation of the contracts as being something that can take more time than acceptable. Some of those take up to a year to negotiate. And it's interesting because, as you can imagine, most of the issues are the same, right? We're dealing with companies, pharma companies, medical device companies. We're dealing with the same hospitals, the same universities, but this continues to be an area where there's a lot more work put into individual negotiation than we hope there will be in the future. So there's a national effort ongoing now to try and develop a model clinical trials agreement. There are a lot of folks that aren't very optimistic that we'll be able to create one agreement that every company, every hospital, every university will agree with. In Ontario, what we've done is we've worked with our Ontario sites to come up with an agreement that they would be happy with. And as protocols, clinical trials come through the CTO system for ethics, we're going to encourage our companies and their research sites to work with those agreements or that model agreement. So we're going to do what we can. We do predict challenges to this. What we find from industry is even if locally the contract is fine with them, globally, the global folks in the company don't like it. We find that many of our industry partners have already negotiated template agreements with individual sites, so they don't want to use the model. And I'm sure there are other challenges we'll come up with. And on this slide, I always put solutions, question, question, question. If anyone has a good idea how we can conquer this issue, it would be very helpful. Again, if we get ethics review done really quick, and we still have those contracts lagging behind by months, we're still going to have a challenge. So that's it for the streamlining initiatives that we're working on right now. In terms of patient and public engagement, this was always meant to be a later stage goal of CTO, but as I said, we have about a year and a half left of our initial funding, so we're into this now. So right now, we're really working in earnest to do a scan of patient and public engagement programs, and we really want to figure out where CTO can provide value in this space. We don't want to do things that are already being done well by other organizations, so we'll look for opportunities to partner and, again, differentiate Ontario in terms of public and patient engagement. So over the next year, we should develop our programming and implement that in that area. The other thing, of course, is we're promoting Ontario as a preferred location for clinical trials. So we, of course, have our website and social media outreach. We've developed materials for new companies as well as for others coming to Ontario and wanting to conduct clinical trials. We, attend the meetings you'd expect. We attend BIO, SCOPE, DIA, et cetera. We try to get into environments where there's lots of companies trying to decide where they want to place their clinical research. Of course, we engage a lot with industry and others one-on-one meetings. And we try to reach out when we can to new companies thinking about coming to Ontario to research or to do research and provide them with information and encourage them to come. The other thing that we do every year, or I should say this is our second year, is we hold a clinical trials conference. So last year we held one at Mars, and 200 people came, and we sold out. I shouldn't say we sold out because it is a free conference. Maybe that's why we do sell out, but there were 200 people that came. This year we've increased our capacity to 500, so it'll, or sorry, 400. So it'll be on March 4th and 5th in Toronto. We currently have a little over 300 people registered, and we will max out at 400 this year. So if you're interested, please do sign up. This conference brings together really a multi-stakeholder group. So we have industry, we have government, we have our research ethics boards folks, we have our investigators, our research sites. And one of the things that people come to this conference value is that all of those people are in the same room and having the conversation together about how can we improve the environment for clinical research in Ontario. So I hope you will think about coming to that. I'm just going to go through a few slides here that talk about Ontario and our capacity for clinical research. We've talked a lot about the challenges and what we're trying to do, but let's look at where we are. So as you can see on this slide, Ontario is just the middle row there, halfway down the slide. So there definitely has been a decline in R&D investment in Canada, clinical or pharmaceutical R&D investment in Canada, and Ontario has experienced that as well. But as you can see, Ontario still holds, or it holds the greatest proportion of investment in clinical research in Canada. And our share is just creeping up ever so slightly over the last few years, so that's nice to see. This is another slide that shows expenditures in Canada, R&D expenditures, and this is by phase of clinical trials. So you can see there's been a modest growth in phase 1 trials. We're still declining in phase 2 and 3, but as you can see with this slide too, that decline is starting to slow down. So we're really hoping that we're hitting that kind of bottom out phase, and especially with the programs that we're implementing and promoting Ontario as the place to do clinical research, that we're going to start to see those numbers go up. In terms of new clinical trials in Ontario, even though there's been less investment, we have seen an increase in the number of newly registered clinical trials between 2009 and 2013. And if you look over towards the right, the second group from the far right, that's actually medical devices. So you can see that medical devices, in terms of clinical research activity, there has been increasing, which is nice to see. This is a slide that shows our clinical research expertise. This is in Canada. Unfortunately, we don't have it in Ontario, but the good news here is that we have comparator jurisdictions: Brazil, California, China, Poland, Romania, and others. And you can see here that the number of investigators in important specialties for industry, we have a really, really strong contingent of researchers and investigators. This slide here shows clinical research expertise. This data shows investigators doing phase 3 trials. And again, you can see that we've amassed significant experience in areas that will contribute to key areas for industry in the future. And these areas, there are actually other documents that define what the areas are where it's expected that pharmaceutical expenditures will be made over the next decades. So I'll just kind of finish with a few final thoughts, and I guess my main one is to say that we can really do this. You know, the Ontario government has stepped up, they have made this investment, but we're still in that building phase. We're just launching our programming now, but we will have many things to promote about Ontario as being a good location for clinical research, and this is going to make an impact. The timing is good. It's great to have the Canadian dollar going down, but it does provide more of an incentive to come here and do research. And a lot of the research that's gone to international jurisdictions, some of the things are changing in those jurisdictions. So in places, for example, like India, where industry at least perceived to be very inexpensive to do research, it's not so inexpensive anymore. They're thinking, why would we do it for that much less? And there have been other challenges as well. So I think this is a good time for research to be coming back to Canada and definitely back to Ontario, and we'll keep working on that. You know, as we look at some of those slides, we know we have the academic expertise, the highly qualified personnel, we have the healthcare resources, we have an incredibly diverse population in Ontario, we have the REB expertise across the province, we have support from industry. I can't emphasize enough how much the companies in Ontario, the pharma companies, medical devices, et cetera, have worked with us to build our program. They want this to happen. They will invest in it. They will support it as we go forward. And most importantly, what we have is this incredibly collaborative environment, whether it be LSO or HDX or the Excite program, or all of these other players that are noted there in that second bullet. When we want to do something, there's not a phone call or an invitation that we make that's not responded to in a positive way, because everybody wants to turn this around and make it work. As I noted, we have 1 year program remaining, 1 year program funding remaining. We do have opportunities for some cost recovery as we go forward, but we're really hoping that we can stay together as an organization. As I said, it's not CTO, it's all the investment that's been made around the CTO by our community. I wish I could remember the number, and I should. I couldn't get coffee this morning. I'm going to attribute it to that. But we've had thousands of volunteer hours from industry, from our institutions, from just countless organizations that have helped build this. So we have the collaboration, we have the investment from all these entities. So we're really hoping we can stick with this over the next years and really make a difference. We're progressing along our roadmap as we planned, but as you know, it will take some time to see changes in the investment numbers. The actual investment numbers, they're slipped a few years before they even come out and see them, but we know this trend is going to reverse, and we're just excited to see that happen. So thank you so much for giving me the time to speak today. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
We're going to let Susan answer some questions, but just before we do, I want to give you a little instruction. On each of your tables is a little wireless mic. If you push the button in the middle, the red light should turn green, and then you can please speak into the mic. Thank you. So, any questions for Susan? Great.
It works. Okay. Area of frustrations is the international trials, and our head office is being in Europe or the United States. Many of the trials are competitive enrollment. Based time and time again has promoted Canadian trials, but by the time that approvals come, due to competitive enrollment, the trial is near complete. So, and in the eyes of international, they don't look at it as Ontario. They look at it from a Canadian perspective. So I think they might be pushing water uphill. And I just wondered, is there any chance of a Canadian initiative rather than just Ontario? Because in the eyes of Ontario, they look at Ontario and say, hey, it's Canada we're responsible for.
So there is a national initiative, the Canadian Clinical Trials Coordinating Center. It's been funded by RxMD, CIHR, the Canadian Institute for Health Research, and Healthcare Canada. So collaboratively, they funded this initiative. It's looking at coordinating things more nationally. I don't think it really has enough funding to run programs, but they're looking at trying to capture what's happening across the country and promote that. So there's that, but that's really just getting off the ground. I couldn't agree with you more. You know, it's hard enough to get people to look at Canada, but just to look at Ontario with Canada, that's a big challenge. But when you look back to those numbers, we're talking over 40% of the clinical research is happening here. Quebec has a big pocket of it, and BC is relatively active as well. So we're actually, I mean, part of what we're doing at CTO is trying to form partnerships provincially as well. So, for example, we formed a partnership that was just announced yesterday with BC and the British Columbia Cancer Research Infrastructure Network. So we're looking at collaborating and partnering them on any program where it makes sense. So we'd love to set it up so that if you get your ethics approval and your contract, we come up with a model here, that we can simply transfer that to BC and you can pick up your sites in BC and Ontario at the same time. We'd like to do that with Quebec. It's more complicated there, only in that, like, they set up a system for streamlining research ethics review, but it's a government system. So it's a little harder to connect it and partner, but we're going to look for opportunities there. So if we can package Ontario and Quebec and BC, maybe Alberta, that's taking the lion's share of clinical research across the province. What we tend to find nationally, and I don't want to sound negative about this, but sometimes it's really hard to get things done across Canada. So our focus, for example, with BC is let's just get it done. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to think about it. We're not going to establish, big advisory groups and yada, yada, yada. The national initiative has been talked about, I think, for 3+ years now. And it's still being talked about rather than actually happening. So we're just doing stuff. We're just going to do stuff. And practically from a program perspective, with people who get the work done, get stuff happening. We're hoping it spreads out from there and makes a difference. You find when you come top down in these environments, it's really hard to make it happen. So we're building it.
Are you looking into the 3CTN? It's the Canadian Cancer Clinical Trial Network that's available.
So I'm the triple CTN, as you would know, is focused on providing resources and support for academic institutions doing cancer research. That is a phenomenal opportunity. It's just cancer though, so we're aware of it, and when we find opportunities to partner there, we'll certainly take them, but it's a bit limited at this point in time of what we envision doing. Amongst other things, you may know this, but Ontario has the Ontario Cancer Research Ethics Board. So they already have one board that reviews multi-center cancer research in the province. So in our system, cancer actually will not be part of it. So it's just a bit, for a very good reason, the best reason you can imagine. And actually, we partner a lot with that board. Like, they help us build their system, and we may come together in the long run. But anyway, if you have good ideas for how you get, they're really good colleagues of ours, and we talk all the time, but their focus is a bit different.
I saw Nick down there first, and then we'll go to Luke. Okay, so at my vantage point, I can't see your slides there, so I might have missed it, but don't worry. I might have missed it, but what is the cost of going through you to do the central part of this clinical trial?
So if there is no industry funding for the clinical trial, there's no cost.
I'm saying industry funding.
Okay, so what we've done in terms of the cost is what we heard from industry loud and clear is we're willing to pay what we are now, but we are not willing to pay more than what we're paying now. So as you can imagine, the typical rate for research ethics review within academic institutions is $3,000 for an initial review. There's variance around that, but it's typically $3,000. So the model that we've come up with is that if there are 5 sites joining that protocol, we will charge them $15,000. We will distribute that out to the research ethics board. They will get more than the $3,000 than what they would normally get. We will also give each participating research site some funding, and at a certain point, we'll start retaining some of that funding for CPO. That's for the first 5 sites. After the first 5, the cost of industry per site, I think it's $2,000, and then anything over 10 sites, it's less again. So with more activity, it'll be actually a lower cost for industry, direct cost in terms of the R&D funding. Of course, practically, it will be a huge cost reduction. There'll be 1 review that will need to be submitted and managed, not 5 or 10.
So does Louis next.
So the congratulations first and foremost on progress that you have made so rapidly. So that's an amazing amount of work that you have done. It might be worthwhile networking with the Canadian Immunization Research Network, was formerly the Pandemic Research Network, that was created with these 2 objectives in mind in particular: be able to have a rapid response they have gone through some of these efforts already to try and nationalize so that the pandemic doesn't start or grow or etc. We are always ready to respond quickly. We have pre-formatted ethics review boards, forms, so on and so forth, clinical trial agreements that are drafted ahead of time, so which you can jump on very quickly. That helps us to also sell our capability globally to the supply pharmaceutical. So quick turnaround time for trials. This is all I'm happy to talk to you.
That would be great, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, please join me in thanking Susan.
And there's Susan's contact information. Some of you might have been in attendance at our policy forum that we hosted in December, and I think CTO was referenced as a terrific example of an innovative policy commitment by the Ontario government to the life sciences industry by several different panelists, and I think that that's a testament to the work that CTO has done. In addition to that, CTO has been a fantastic partner to LSO, and Susan mentioned collaboration and a collaborative approach that CTO has taken, which is well aligned with how we operate here at Life Sciences Ontario. So thank you, Susan, again, for all your work at CTO and for being a great partner to LSO. So we have a series of speakers from NRC, and I believe we're doing a bit of a tag team here, right? We're going to go through several speakers in series. So maybe what I'll do is I'll introduce all of our speakers at once, and then I'll let them come up, do their presentations. We'll hold questions till the end, and then all of the speakers will be available to answer any questions. So we'll do it that way. So all of the speakers' bios are available in the package. So I'll just introduce them by name and title. Dr. Julie Darshane is General Manager of NRC's Human Health Therapeutics. Dr. Maureen O'Connor is Head of Antibody Generation at NRC's Human Health Therapeutics. Dr. Jim Richards is R&D Director in Immunology and Glycobiology at NRC's Human Health Therapeutics. Dr. Bernard Massey is R&D Director, Antibodies and Bioprocessing, again at the Human Health Therapeutics portfolio. Dr. Jean-Francois Poule is R&D Director of NRC Medical Devices portfolio. And Dr. Chapman, Dr. Bob Chapman, leads the NRC's Natural Health Products program. I was speaking with Rob Merson just before this, and he said it's actually quite amazing that we have all of these individuals from the various segments of NRC in one place. Typically, they're presenting at very specific audiences. So I think we're very fortunate today to have all of these portfolios represented within life sciences in one location, and very much appreciate the speakers at NRC making the effort to join us here today and participate. So with that, Julie, do you want to start?
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Great. Can you hear me? Yes. Yes. Good. So, thank you. My pleasure to be here today and to introduce you to the National Research Council and the NRC, to all of you. As many of you know, and as the previous speaker has alluded to, there's no doubt that Canada has real research strength. But we also know that there's been a steady decline in our productivity and competitiveness. And in fact, Canada lags behind many industrialized and developed countries in terms of innovation and on many of those measures, such as productivity growth or company spending on R&D. So in this context, NRC's vision is to stimulate domestic prosperity via its leading position as a research and technology organization, or RTO. So basically, RTOs create value through research and technology technology development. So what we do, we work with partners and clients, and we provide innovation support, strategic research, scientific and technical services to develop and deploy solutions that will meet Canada's needs today, but also in the future. So if we look at our business model, we have three main types of R&D activities that we undertake. At the heart of what we do in the middle, there, the middle square, we have R&D collaborations, where we work with companies to develop products or technologies. We also do, now on the left-hand side, strategic R&D, which is internally funded, where we do more exploration or capability building. And we also offer unique scientific and technical services. So we have a mixed funding model where we have a core that is publicly funded and then some money coming in through these external collaborations. And we feel that we need both elements because collaborating with industry ensures that we are relevant today and we see the revenues and an indication of our relevance. And the strategic R&D part is important to make sure that we are relevant tomorrow. So that's why it's important to have a mix of both things. And the revenues that come in are reinvested to fund new innovation cycles. So we are also a non-profit organization. So many of you may know the IRAP arm of NRC, but life sciences is also a big division within the R&D world of NRC. So NRC has three R&D divisions, emerging technologies, engineering, and life sciences. And today we'll present to you people working in projects in life sciences. So it is composed of three R&D areas, which we call portfolio, because we are the government and we come up with these strange titles for things. And so we have public and crop resource development, human health therapeutics, which is the organizational lead, and medical devices. So who are the companies we collaborate with? Well, in Canada, there's more than 1,500 companies working in biopharmaceutics, medical devices, and natural health products. And the overwhelming majority of them are small and medium enterprises. But whether they're small or big, all these companies have their own set of challenges. So for big ones, problems are linked to reduced internal pipelines and declining productivity. So these companies do more outsourcing of R&D, more in licensing to tap into external innovation. For smaller companies, it's about the bottom line. It's about reducing risks and decreasing costs and making sure that the success rates are better for their product development. So at NRC, we believe that we can be capitalizing on this external R&D model to become a partner of choice for the biotech and medtech industry. So why partner with us? Well, we have highly qualified staff. So 90% of our staff has master's or PhD degrees. We have expertise in bio and health technologies, a track record of industry collaborations, state-of-the-art infrastructure, and we can be seen as a one-stop shop from target selection or concept design all the way to prototyping or GMP-like processes. And as an RTO, as a research and technology organization, we need to be constantly scanning our environment to make sure that we understand the drivers for industry change. And we do this to make sure that we are aligned with the needs of the Canadian innovation system. And so, as I said earlier, we strive to offer something that is differentiated versus the other innovation partners. So compared to academia, for example, we do applied research. And we do research that responds to industry needs. And compared to a CRO, well, we invest very heavily in R&D, and what we do is to provide innovative solutions to challenges. And we don't do regulatory work, GMP or GLP type work. And so we see ourselves as bridging the gap between basic research and technology deployment. So we collaborate all over Canada, mostly in the major hubs of Montreal area, Southern Ontario, Vancouver, but also out west and in the Maritimes. We don't have institutes in every single city, but in this day and age, we can do an awful lot of things remotely, and we also try to be visible and come and visit people everywhere so that people can understand what we can bring to their R&D efforts. So now I'll just, in a few brush strokes, give you an overview of the three portfolios, and the speakers after me will go in a little more depth. So in human health therapeutics, we have decided to focus on biotechnology or large molecules. So this is really our main area of focus. And this is the area of most growth for biotech and pharma industry. And so we work in biologics and vaccines, and we'll have presentations on this. And we also work on some antibody carriers that you can link with biologics to enable them to cross the blood-brain barrier. That's what we call our EBB program. To do this, we have about 300 staff, and that is 300 scientists and technicians. It doesn't include support staff. That is in another part of NIC. And they're located in Montreal, Ottawa, and Halifax. And it is the largest R&D team dedicated to biologics in the country. So it's a pretty sizable effort. And our main expertise is in antibody generation, scale-up and bioprocessing, biologics characterization and purification, pharmacology, but also vaccines, and preclinical imaging, especially for the brain with the EBB program that I've alluded to. In medical devices or human health technologies, we work in vitro diagnostics, the devices like a lab on a chip type thing where you put a sample on a device. We also work on in vivo devices where we specialize on point of care type devices. We also work on biocompatible implants or orthopedic devices, and also medical IT for simulation, training, and also to support remote and home care, which is such an important area in this day and age. So we have about 75 scientists, engineers, IT specialists in Boucherville, Winnipeg, Ottawa, and London, Ontario. And we have specialists in microfluidics, spectroscopy, radiofrequency engineering, novel materials, simulation and digital health, but also device development and validation. In aquatic and crop resource development, ACRD, and I won't say what this, I might say, which we affectionately call surf and turf, yes. So in this area, we work on transforming our aquatic and crop resources into higher value products. And these can be natural health products or specialty chemicals, but we also develop algae biomass solutions to divert CO2, or we also work on improving wheat with a lot of genetics effort to make sure they're more sustainable or profitable. There we have about 200 people in Charlottetown, Halifax, Montreal, Ottawa, Saskatoon, and mostly chemists, geneticists, toxicologists, and molecular biologists. So there we do a lot more chemistry, whether it's natural product chemistry, analytical chemistry, chemical bioprocessing, but also cell technologies and sequencing, microscopy and imaging, and also preclinical biology. So that was just an overview of the life sciences division, and we believe that we can be a partner of choice for small companies or bigger ones, and our goal is to reduce the critical step in the development of biologics, vaccines, medical device, natural products, and we aim to reduce the complexity or reduce the time associated with diverse processes to save time from lab to market. And with our efforts and our partners, we have actually had very successful collaborations, and one of them is Avid Biologics, where our partners have reached critical milestones in the development of their products, and they've increased their ability to attract investments and create jobs for Canadians, which is what all of us want. So thank you, and I'll go now with Maureen. So it's a plus of trust. There we go. Sorry. gene system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, Gene. Gene, put that.
Yes, so I'll talk about the earlier, early discovery development in the human health therapeutics portfolio, focusing on the biologics program and the BBB program. So as most of you know, this is the development path when bringing treatments to the market. So selecting the target for the therapeutic and the validation of the target, selecting then, in our case, your candidate large molecule, optimizing that, and then doing preclinical development, such as animal studies, to reach the IND or investigational new drug stage. So the human health therapeutics portfolio participates right up to the IND stage, including manufacturing efforts. So as Judy mentioned, we have different styles of projects. We can do co-development of a product. We can supply services. Usually there's still an innovative service. And we have our internal projects, which we call strategic R&D. Also, we develop intellectual property, so that can be licensed. Also, as Julie mentioned, we've decided to focus on large molecules, not small molecules. Is where our strength was, and we've focused in this area. Generally, we've worked so far on protein-based therapeutics and vaccines. So to get into a little bit more detail, I'm responsible for what's called Pillar 1 of the biologics program, and that's the earlier part, target selection and validation, and the design, selection and design of the candidate therapeutic molecule. So just quickly, we have several activities in this area. So we can identify the therapeutic target. We have 3 omics platforms that we've brought together. So it includes proteomics, transcriptomics, and bioinformatics. And we actually chose 40 tumor targets, and we've developed thousands of candidate therapeutic antibodies against those 40 tumor targets, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. Then we can generate the libraries of antibodies, and we have 2 platforms for that. I'll describe those a bit more. We do a lot of protein interaction analysis. This is absolutely necessary to characterize your candidates. We do cell-based assay. This is functional assays to select the therapeutic candidate for function. In that case, we have especially a novel screening assay for antibody drug conjugates. And that's what Avid Biologics has actually benefited from. Also, we have a great molecular modeling team that once you've chosen your therapeutic protein, we can bring in the molecular modeling to optimize it. We have a nice example project there for affinity optimization, and that's been developed together with CQDM. They contributed into the funding of that. So very quickly, antibody library generation. The facility in Montreal generates traditional mouse monoclonal antibodies. We do it in a relatively high throughput mode though. We can have thousands of specific antibodies generated per year. We have new developments in that area to keep us at the cutting edge. Instead of doing traditional immunizations, we can do what's called genetic immunization, that you just put the DNA encoding your antigen into the animal. They generate the protein as their own little factory, and you can get antibodies that way, especially against difficult targets, such as transmembrane proteins. We're bringing in next generation sequencing approaches, and that allows you to just look into your antibody library repertoire more deeply and make sure you're selecting a large library of appropriate antibodies. The complementary facility that we have is in Ottawa, and it generates a different kind of antibody. This is a more novel antibody, and it turns out animals like camels, alpacas, and llamas generate different antibodies than humans do and mice do. They have only a single gene, And so you can take a little domain there shown in blue, and it's a very nice, solidly folded, well-behaved binding domain. And so you can, if you can generate this kind of antibody, you can use them in a very modular fashion for a lot of purposes. And for example, this is where we got our antibodies across the blood-brain barrier from this kind of project. Usually those come from, like I said, camelids, but we have new human single-domain antibody libraries. It's very novel, hardly anybody has those. It's very difficult to find them in the human repertoire, and we have those libraries. We're also bringing in next-generation sequencing in order to improve our antibody libraries and our screening approaches to find the best antibody. This is the molecular modeling. As I said, we have a very good in silico modeling group, and they can take that therapeutic protein and using modeling approaches optimize it. So we can change binding affinity and specificity. We can reduce immunogenicity by humanization of the antibodies. We can change pharmacokinetics to make a longer circulating half-life. We have projects on that. We can increase stability of the protein. And the other one is phase, aggregation solubility. That's very hard to deal with in silico, but we are starting a project to deal with that. So this is just showing some of the industrial partners that we've interacted with, and their position along the line there is how far their products are down the development path. So for example, oncolytics, we've worked with them more to help them with manufacturing more than discovery. And they're far down into phase 3 clinical trials. Alethia Biotherapeutics, so the little red, blue, and green symbols there, I've put it around each company because that indicates when they actually came and chose a target from us. So we chose the target, they license our target antibody set, and then move along with it. In other cases, for Alethia, for example, they've taken one antibody from us and are developing it, but they also have their own antibodies. They have their own discovery platform. So they come to us to get that antibody optimized, humanized, and they come to us for manufacturing those antibodies. So different partners that come to us for different activities. As I say, Alethia actually took some of our antibodies and are sticking with us for the development. Avid Biologics, they helped sponsor this event. They had one of their antibodies of their own choice, but they also licensed 3 from us. So they have 4 candidates in their pipeline coming along, which were very integral helping them with that. And other Canadian companies, Signalcam from Vancouver has licensed 1 target. Inflammatorics, we've helped them with their antibody. Augurex, it's a relatively new project, but we're helping them develop a therapeutic antibody. So those are the examples of, oh, and I should say Helix Biopharma at the bottom there. I shouldn't forget them. They're a Toronto company. They're in phase 1 clinical trials. And they took one of our camelid antibodies. And so they are one of the most advanced companies in the world, really, for taking camelid antibodies into clinical trials. Now, just quickly, the blood-brain barrier program. This is led by Danica Stenmirvik, and she couldn't be here today. She can tell you much more detail about this, but I'll give a little update on this. So, in the blood-brain barrier program, they are dealing not only with Canadian companies, but also with some multinationals. That's because this is quite an adventurous effort to get therapeutics into the brain. So the multinationals help us get the proof of concept, and then it can be used for Canadian companies. So just in summary, the impact for our collaborators are enhancing the ability to attract investment, progression of the new therapeutics towards commercialization, and this causes in Canada increased business expenditures on R&D. And I won't go through these, but there's nice press releases that you can read about Zymeworks, a big collaborator of ours. We help, we're basically their wet lab to give them proof of concept in their designs. So that's Zymeworks in Vancouver and Avid Biologics here in Toronto, a number of press releases. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Jim Richards, and I'll continue the discussion on the vaccine program. And I don't think I need to tell anybody in this room what a vaccine is. What I will say is that there's no question that through immunization and vaccine programs that harnessing the immune system has had a tremendous impact on the health of humans through prophylactic vaccination. There's a trend now looking at adult vaccines by prophylaxis, and also therapeutic vaccines for post-exposure to infectious agents and to chronic conditions and cancer. Now, our vaccine program, again, as Julie mentioned, is working between fundamental research and discovery and helping our partners move their products up to the clinic. And we do this in 4 areas along the value chain. Helping our partners to identify and optimize antigens, looking at the formulation and delivery of the antigens through adjuvants and vectors, production, bioproduction in particular, and you'll hear much more about that from Dr. Bernard Massey, and evaluating their vaccines immunologically, and also using physical chemical methods to help them in these evaluations. We collaborate through co-development of products with our partners. We provide R&D services in those areas I just mentioned. And we have strategic research areas to ensure that the technologies that we offer are helping to meet the future needs of the vaccine sector. Another area that we're working in is, and we've been doing this for the last 3 years, is engaging not only the vaccine industry sector in Canada, and we've done this for the Vaccine Industry Committee, Biotech Canada, and one-on-one meetings with both SMEs and MNEs that have a footprint in Canada, but also with the key federal partners. The Public Health Agency of Canada has an oversight role for the immunization programs in this country, as well as Health Canada on the regulation side. And through working with the federal partners, we've been developing an action plan on research, development, and innovation for vaccines with the goal of identifying Canadian priorities, and also to ensure that there's constant engagement and discussion between industry, government, and academia. We also have partnerships internationally with our goal to help SMEs here in Canada hook up with these markets through the partnerships that we have, and in particular, this has been with China and Taiwan recently. Looking at the technological trends, I think I've already mentioned that cancer and chronic disease is a new trend for therapeutic vaccines. Virus-like particles have come into play over a number of years, and in particular producing virus-like particles using unique plant systems. For example, the company Metacoglo in Quebec City is using tobacco plants to produce viral-like particles. And then new adjuvants, and there's multiple adjuvants on the market right now. GSK is a leader in the adjuvant space, and this is a way to stimulate the immune system, not only for prophylaxis, but for the new therapeutic cancer vaccines that need to come out. Now, I can't go through this slide in detail. What I will focus on is a glycoconjugate offer that we have at the NRC, as well as the high yield production of viral vectors and VLPs for manufacturing safe vaccines. To give you an example of companies we've worked with in that space. Just to let you know, as Maureen did, we're helping companies at various parts of the value chain, indicating here for antigen identification and validation, candidate design and optimization, preclinical development, and bringing, and in fact, some of the work we've done has helped the companies take their products to the market. And in fact, in the glycoconjugate area, NRC actually had the first patent issued in the United States in 1972 for glycoconjugate technology, and this ultimately led to the MC vaccine together with GSK here in Canada that's producing it for several provinces as part of our immunization programs. And then elsewhere in the world, Baxter had the rights for this, which was recently sold to Pfizer, and Pfizer will be producing this now. Now, using a more advanced glycoconjugate technology that we've developed, we recently signed an agreement with Willie Creek, which is a Toronto-based company with a research and development arm in Sudbury, to look at to develop a vaccine against Helicobacter pylori, which causes gastritis, peptic ulcers, but also leads to gastric cancer in a number of cases. And in fact, it's interesting to note that 50 to 60% of the Canadian northern population is susceptible to disease from this pathogen. Globally, a large proportion of people are colonized by Helicobacter pylori, and in many cases it doesn't cause problems, but in some cases it's quite serious, and we're hoping that a vaccine is infection in Canada. On the side of looking at the work we've done on VLPs with the company Variation Biotechnology, which is located in Ottawa. In fact, NRC has been working with VBI since its inception in 2003, where IRAP has provided support to bring the company up to where it is today. And over the last 2 years, we've used proprietary cell culture system, the HEK293 cells, to help the company develop their VLP vaccine against cytomegalovirus infections, and their VLP CMV vaccine is currently in CGMP production. We helped to transfer to CMO for that to take place, and are continuing to help this happen so that we'll go into clinical trials hopefully later this year. Here's a list of a couple of companies where we're providing analytical services, both immunological as well as physicochemical. And finally, I'd like to end bringing back to some of the work we've done through the federal initiative. In October, we held a workshop on next generation biomarkers for vaccine safety and efficacy. And in fact, all of the major companies are very concerned on vaccine safety, particularly as more and more adjuvants are being used. However, to address this issue, it's much too big for one company to undertake alone. And in fact, at this workshop, we brought together a number of key players, MMEs, SMEs, the federal regulators, to see how we can move forward in a consortium approach, pre-competitive, which will ultimately help all the companies move forward. And we're currently evaluating next steps. I might point out, since we're for this audience here at LSO, that Dr. Louis Barreto, who is here today, is a special advisor to our vaccine program, and Louis was actually instrumental in helping to bring this workshop together. And of course, as you all know, Louis will be receiving the Community Service Award from LSO in February, and indeed for the contributions he's done in building life sciences here in Ontario. But I can tell you with our vaccine program, he's helping to build the life sciences sector in vaccines, not only in Ontario, across Canada, and indeed globally. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous.
This is the French part.
So I'm going to talk to you about advanced biomanufacturing initiative that we launched at NRC. And if you'll only remember one thing from my talk, it's the overarching goal of this initiative to ensure that down the road, every biologics and vaccine developed in Canada will be manufactured. So what do we have in Canada in terms of biological large molecule product? There's actually more than 94 SMEs developing more than 300 biological products. 70% of the product at the preclinical stage. There's about 62% of the product in the cancer and infection area, and about 69% of our antibody or antibody conjugate. In Canada, if you look at these products and the kind of platform you're going to need to produce them, it's by and large, it's mammalian. It's more than 100 products that need to be produced in the mammalian system. And to some extent, if you look at what's happening over the past couple of years, there is a big trend in growing biomanufacturing in the mammalian cell because of the antibody that is really one of the largest growing segment in terms of therapeutic in the pharma industry. So you can see that mammalian is really one of the platforms that we should focus on. So when you develop a biologist, and for example, antibody, which is the main product that we're working with, you have to develop in the mammalian cell, and that includes cell line development and media optimization. You have to do the pilot scale in bioreactor, purification, and GMP production scale up for clinical use. One of the problems we are facing right now is a number of these molecules that are being developed, but unfortunately, as we speak right now, these molecules, when we reach the stage of GMP manufacturing, they go outside Canada, most of them. And that's really something that results in a really significant loss of economic impact for Canada. So if you look at the overall ecosystem for development of biologics, we have a fairly good ecosystem for moving the molecule at the early stage with CROs to CMOs. There are some CMOs established in Canada. We have also very good places to do the fill and finish. And we've heard about the CTOs organization that we have. We can conduct clinical trial in Canada. We're pretty good at that in order to eventually reach the market. However, the gap that we have with the SMEs is when they come up to the CMO to get their product done in Canada, they really are facing some sort of issue that we're trying to address right now. So this is to give you some sort of snapshot of the CMOs in Canada right now. And as you can see from this slide, we're pretty strong in microbial systems, which are really a lot of molecules that were done earlier on in biotech, a lot of protein-based therapeutic work done in microbial systems because this was the first system. We have established technology in this area. But for mammalian, which is the antibody done in CHO cell, I would say that there's basically two places where you could do it in Toronto at Terrapure, Mississauga, and another place which is getting up now to this stage with UVAX next door to our facility in Montreal. So what we're trying to do in this space is to really foster a really strong second biomanufacturing. And the way we're approached to do that, we want to transfer our expression system and bioprocessing know-how to the Canadian CMO to enable them to really manufacture the product. And in fact, one of the things which is somewhat different from small molecule with biology is that the molecule is defined very much so by the process you're going to use to produce it. So it starts really with the design of the molecule, but after that, the moment you move it in the living system that you need to use to produce the molecule, then it pretty much hits into some sort of format which makes it very difficult to change the cell line or to change the process as you're moving to the stage of clinical trial. And therefore, there's a potential to retain this molecule manufacturing if you initiate the clinical trial in Canada, because if you're successful in producing material in mammalian cell in Canada, there's a good chance that as you move towards phase 3 and commercial scale, they will maintain production in Canada. So there's basically two platforms. CHO is for the antibody, and as Jim mentioned, for the HEK293, mostly the viral DLP particle that we're doing with some of our industrial partners. That's a very big area for 293 cell, as well as some of the viral based vaccine that we're working on. So what we want to do is to encourage the SME developer to really select an Canadian CMO to produce their biologics. There's a lot of instances to do that, both financial as well as logistic, because every time you go across the border in order to get your product made, it really complicates a lot of issues in terms of managing the GMP manufacturing. You've seen that before that by Maureen, that we have a number of products along the landscape. And when we did the scan with the biomanufacturing initiative, we have identified right now more than 30 products that could be an opportunity over the next 5 years to do value manufacturing in Canada. Some are coming from David, Alicia, and potentially with Zymework, one of our partners. And we have initiated an ongoing discussion with Ruvax and Therapure, which we hope will be the partner of choice for these SMEs in order to initiate the biomanufacturing. So why are we trying to foster that? It's because we've got to survey and look at what kind of footprint you can expect if you do the biomanufacturing. Because in the biopharma industry, the moment the molecule moves to the phase 3 and commercial state, you really have to get investment in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and sometimes it's difficult to get that from Canada. You will get that from international partners. So when they do that, they get the technology, and then they can move it wherever they want to do the manufacturing. And one step beyond of the footprint of these biotherapeutics will be very little. If you look at the cost of good or everything associated with manufacturing based on the sales, it's roughly between 18 and 20% of the value. So if you can retain biomanufacturing in Canada, this is the kind of footprint we expect from the production of biomanufacturing of these bios, even if they are acquired by big international partners. So that's in a nutshell what I have to tell you about biomanufacturing.
Good morning, I'm John Consul, and I'm with the Medical Devices portfolio, and I'd like to thank Jason for the opportunity to present a new program within the Medical Devices portfolio to help enhance and act as a catalyst within the Canadian medical devices industry. And really what we're trying to do is become the partner of choice for medical devices development in Canada. So the medical device environment has changed quite a bit. It's one that's both challenging and very promising. With the aging population and with emerging middle class, emerging economies, we're seeing a need for better healthcare tools, for better healthcare delivery. So it's very promising for new technologies to come in and play that role. Obviously, there's some challenges and obstacles. They can be summarized as reimbursement, as well as regulatory hurdles. And finally, as well, the landscape has changed in that the patients and the end users and payers are asking for value-added products. They want products that actually have an impact on the quality of life, that really delivers something to the system. So then comes in the wrinkle of finance. As you've probably noticed in the medical devices field, the large multinationals have gone on a consolidation bench. We've seen these large companies acquire other large companies, so and they're also acquiring revenue. So now acquisitions are occurring later on in the life of companies, which means that venture capitalists don't see SMEs as being very interesting investments because of the timeline to exit. So we have the M&Es on one side who used to rely on SMEs for innovation, trying to balance innovation and profitability. And on the other side, the SMEs are trying to balance innovation with just plain survival. So this is where we saw an opportunity for the NRC, Medical Devices portfolio, to help both these players in this field. So as Julie alluded to, we are focused on 5 areas where we have core competencies. And my goal in this talk is to give you a snapshot of what we do in these 5 areas, as well as provide you with some practical examples of how we can work with companies to help them develop products. So we work in vitro diagnostics, we work in vivo devices, which are mostly imaging modalities. We work in implantable devices for orthopedic, cardiovascular, or dental applications, as well as in digital health and simulation. And that includes as well e-health and in-health applications. And finally, we're developing another thrust within this program that has to do with supporting companies with device certification and approvals. We're trying to help companies track right away through the right path so they can get their devices certified and ultimately approved. This is in development right now. We're going through an industry consultation right now. So where do we fit in? Julie alluded to this right now. We are at the NRC within the medical devices portfolio, really working with small and medium enterprises to act as a virtual R&D. We're also in a great area for academic centers to transform their inventions into innovations. And large multinationals are also working with us in terms of looking at maybe some research areas that they can't really explore within their very rigid structures. And then in some cases, they've come to see us to help repair and solve issues with existing products. Okay? So
How you can work with us in terms of developing this product, again, Judy alluded to this, we do technical services, we do strategic R&D interactions, but one element I'd like to emphasize is our science infrastructure. People forget the NRC's been around for 100 years. We have a lot of instrumentation, and we have a lot of very knowledgeable people that can help you characterize your devices. Okay, so don't forget that as well. So let's go over these 5 thrusts and our basic technologies. So in in vitro diagnostic devices, our thrust leader, Teodoro Verez, is a specialist, a world leader in developing microfluidic devices for doing diagnostics. And I want to give you a snapshot of what we're capable of doing. We can develop microstructures that could be functional microstructures that can be used to detect protein-protein interactions that are very small. We can develop microstructures that can be involved in microfluidics. It could be used to sort cells, to do sample prep, but ultimately we can also integrate all these units into something that will automate and miniaturize sophisticated processes. So we call lab on a chip. And what Theodore has done, he's focused on developing these on manufacturable and scalable materials. This is all done on plastic and thermoplastic elastomers. So if there are any of you in the microfluidics field, you know how important that is in order to generate devices that can in fact hit the market at a cost point that is relevant to the markets they're targeting. Okay? And so we develop these products with partners, and in the end, these products can be transferred over to a manufacturer who can use injection molding, use roll-to-roll manufacturing, hot embossing, techniques and technologies that are scalable, manufacturable, and cost-effective. And I'll give you an example here, and before I forget this, Theodore likes to remind me that our breadth of expertise in microfluidics spans the gamut. Okay, so we work with traditional microfluidics, whether it be capillary channel microfluidics. We work with the centrifugal platforms. We also work with digital microfluidics, so electrowetting on dielectric. We also have developed some novel valving. And through the course of interactions with collaborators, both at the academic level and the industrial level, we've developed significant expertise, in some cases, some proprietary approaches to dealing with these issues and problems. Just to give you an example, this is a product, a concept that was developed where we wanted a sample to answer. We wanted to go from a very rough sample all the way to the detection of bacteria and maybe ultimately sequencing or even detection of nucleic acids. And this is all done on one platform. So we look at platforms, we look at instruments on top of consumables and cartridges and chips. Okay. Our group in radio frequency photonics technologies had tremendous experience in bringing products to market. What you see here is actually the SPY platform from Novavac. Some of you may not know, but the platform itself, or at least the IP behind the platform, was developed at the NRC in Winnipeg. Okay? So obviously, to develop that type of platform, you need expertise in electronics, mechanical engineering, and software engineering. And you also need pointed expertise in clinical trial support and preclinical validation. So the team, with the thrust lead is Mike Soa and his team, can help you bring your imaging device forward. And I'll give you an example. And by the way, through the course of our developments, we have developed other IP in the cardiovascular field, in dentistry, breast cancer, as well as periodontitis. So if there's any interest in those fields, please come and see us. So we've worked in the past with Novavac. We've worked with Kent Imaging. In the case of Kent, we licensed the original IP to them. We helped them develop the instrument. We worked with them on the instrument design. We worked with them in the preclinical validation. We helped support their clinical trials, and we also helped them get through the FDA. So you can see all of this expertise is resident within the NRC and can help you move your product to the market. And obviously, because we developed the IP, we're providing them with ongoing support. Our implantable devices group is really building a really rich history in materials. In fact, this little piece or wedge on the top here was an interesting device for the aero and auto field. This is a titanium foam. Turns out that this titanium foam has great properties as an implantable device. And I'll go through the story in a little more detail. So we fit the five in this group are experts in materials and design and modeling and testing of these types of materials. And these can have application in orthopedics, dental, and cardio. These materials can be metals, polymers, ceramics, composites. It can be bioresorbable. It can be dense. It can be porous. It can be powders, film fibers, coatings. Okay? We can, and our manufacturing expertise is beyond pale. We can work with molding, compression, compaction, and even additive manufacturing. And this is the main theme with us. You know, we are looking to help companies get to market. We understand manufacturing and design rules, and we can help you get there. And I'll show you an example of a company we work with, and we brought them to market with our help. So when you work with us, we can help design the material, and we can do this at the lab scale, all the way up to a pilot scale. We have large facilities in Boucherville that can do that. And once you have that pilot scale process established, we can then transfer it to a manufacturer. In fact, that was the case with a small group we worked with from Great Britain. This list of characterization equipment is a great representation of what infrastructure is available at the NRC. If you need to characterize material, I recommend you do not buy something before you call us. Okay? So we worked with companies in the past in this field. A great example is this British company came to see us. They had a great idea for a canine wedge for cruciate disease. We helped them design this titanium foam wedge. We actually had the IP in generating this titanium foam. It has the right porosity and to have the right capabilities for this particular application. It actually leads to faster animal recovery. So we helped them design it. We helped transfer the manufacturing process over to a Canadian manufacturer who gets its material supplies from a Canadian group. And so we now have OrthoMed making around 10,000 units per year for these procedures in the veterinary field. Okay? And this is through collaboration with the NRC. Okay? And a nice Canadian impact as well. By the way, this titanium foam also is very interesting in human applications and orthopedic applications. Finally, the Simulation and Digital Health group are a group that's quite interested in a number of different fields in digital health, very much emerging area. Obviously, simulation is very useful in training, for skills training. It's great for rehearsing prior to surgery. It can be used when you're designing a medical device to look at ergonomics or even in terms of workflow analysis. Or you can use it for device prototyping as well. And obviously, the core of it was devised to help people do surgical training, so it's great graphics and imaging treatment within that allows you to go on to other fields such as serious gaming. We talk about rehabilitation games or things of that nature, or even looking at performance. So the team, let's just go to this here. So the team and the infrastructure that we have at Boucherville covers over 4,000 square feet. These are agile software development gurus. We actually have a biosafety lab level 2. And what we do there is that we actually characterize tissues biomechanically from first principles, so that when we render these virtual reality environments, you have fundamental mathematical models that best represent the actual properties of the tissue. So these are some of the most realistic simulations of tissue interaction with surgical tools. So all of this expertise was brought to bear in the development of a novel technology. We also I put this here to mention that we can also do more simple simulation models, whether they be physiological models for blood flow. We also have capabilities of making tissue mimicking constructs. If you need to make a mannequin, that would be useful in training and simulation. And we can also combine all these together into quite powerful platforms. One of these is the NeuroTouch. So the NeuroTouch is a neurosurgery training platform. Neurosurgeons can train on 30 procedures. Some of these procedures are somewhat training or skills training, and others are actually complicated procedures such as tumor development. And it provides the user with feedback. It tells them how well they've done, and they can improve their training. And the development of this instrument was actually guided by 17 sites across the world, neurosurgery training sites. And we are, in fact, looking for Canadian receptors, actually in active discussions with Canadian receptors to commercialize this platform. This platform combines VR as well as tissue mimicking constructs, as well as haptics interaction. So very realistic. In fact, it was recently noted as being one of the most, or actually the most realistic platform for neurosurgical training in the world. Okay. So with that, just the final mention that we are in ongoing consultation now to understand what our role should be with respect to device certification support, as well as regulatory approvals. We'd love to hear from you during the networking section of this breakfast this morning. I'd love to hear from you guys on what needs to exist and what you'd like to see the NRC provide as a service in that area. So with that, I'd like to emphasize that the HTP, the Health Technologies Program within the medical devices portfolio, is there to help companies get to market faster. We are there to have an impact on the Canadian economy. We want to be your partner of choice in product development. We can help mitigate technology risk. As Ginny mentioned, we have a core group of scientists and engineers that can help, get you there faster. So you're going to need some water real soon. So with that, think of us as your point of entry into the NRC and your point of convergence. Something that people fail to consider is the fact that the NRC is 3,000 strong. And in some cases, we reach out to other portfolios to get pointed expertise. A great example is titanium foam. It came from the aeronautic industry, and now it's resonant medical devices and being used for that. So think of that when you contact us. And we're also meeting a bunch of companies now and different players in the field. So we could, if we're not the right team to help you develop something, we could probably identify the right group for you. So let's talk. Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bob Chapman, and I'm representing aquatics and crop resource development portfolio. As Julie put it, surf and turf. Sometimes will stick better in your brain. This aquatic and crop resource development portfolio is all about making the world, being a world leader in sustainable transformation of biomass into economic value. That's represented in all the 4 programs that we have to date, whether it be the algae carbon conversion, value-added production of algae, hybrid variety wheat for climate change, bio-based specialty chemicals, which is green chemical replacement for traditional feedstocks, or the natural health products program that we're going to talk about here today. So Energy's natural health products program represents a $21 million direct investment from the NRC, a $38 million program over the next 8 years that we launched in November of 2013 during Natural Health Products Week. My colleague, Jason Steele, is in the audience, and he put some information on everyone's desk, and there's information at the back if you would like some additional information on the program after the event. So the natural health product industry in Canada is quite a vibrant and growing industry. It represents about an $11 billion industry. It's been doubling about every 10 years. It includes areas of functional food, natural organic personal care, supplements, and even natural organic foods. This industry in Canada has a number of different favorable tailwinds for it. Not only do we have abundant and a variety of aquatic and crop resources, but we're also perceived as leaders in this industry in Canada. Understanding that the maple leaf helps sell Canadian products abroad. We also have a lot of companies that are worldwide known in Ontario. The industry addresses some key and growing issues, right? So demographic shifts, population growth, and in particular an aging population. We have the worried wealthy looking for products like this. We have the rise of lifestyle-related diseases. I would point out metabolic diseases like diabetes. This industry also has a lot of competition, a lot of competitive pressures, increasing regulatory hurdles. And that's driven by 30,000 products on the shelf, so 30,000 SKUs in Canada for natural health products. So it's a very competitive environment. The consumer here is very educated. They're seeking safer and healthier natural health products. We know that if you get through the regulatory system and you can get a health claim on your products, and in Canada you can get a disease prevention health claim, that carries a lot of weight. Your sales can go up 500%. We also know that our regulators here in Canada are ahead of other competing nations in terms of we have pre-market approval that increases the quality of the products here in Canada. So what we did, we went across the country. We talked to Canadian companies in this industry from coast to coast. We got some input from them in terms of how we're going to build this program, and we really understand that they're really seeking processes and innovation to fuel their growth and market differentiation because there's 30,000 SKUs on shelf. Companies also require development support to help validate the efficacy, safety, and quality of the products. Here within the program, really we're focused on helping companies do that differentiation, creating value for either their inline products that are in development or new products that they plan to develop. The objective of the program is actually to co-develop high-value products with Canadian companies. We want to have differentiated ones, those ones that are supported by science. There's more than 750 companies that are in this space in Canada. We're working with the ones, the 5% of the ones that are really looking for scientific support for those types of products. We're looking for developing functional ingredients that go into natural health products that are derived from Canadian biomass. That's an important part, whether it be a waste stream or other types of biomass. It's one of the goals. It's a very good economic return for Canada for those types of investments. And again, one of the things that the program wants to have as a legacy after it ends, and to do that while we're doing that, is to increase the reputation. We already have a high reputable industry, but we want to maintain and grow that reputation abroad for quality and safety. Within the value chain, where we discovered from our industry consultations was there's a gap in the preclinical sciences. That's exactly where we targeted our program. So we had Ag Canada on the early stage, helping with the primary producer, and they're our partner in the wheat program. And we have other people that are doing clinical trials, and Susan had a good overview of the clinical trial landscape here in Ontario that are doing that across the country. They're our partners as well. We're not doing human clinical trials ourselves, and we have food technology centers and other places that are doing product scale up. What we're good at and what we can help with is doing things like helping with product efficacy. As an example, looking at mechanism of action, or helping with product formulation. That's new substitutes for ingredients, all natural as an example, or the product plus version of your product. We can help with that. Or on the product safety, creating methods that'll help differentiate your product with respect to quality and safety. Where our strengths are within this program and what we're pulling in from across the NRC, in particular the 5 sites across the aquatic and crop resource development portfolio, is a really, really strong analytical natural products chemistry. Really great depths of expertise in that area. Another important gap in the natural health product space, at least, is the preclinical biologic services. Access to in vitro and in vivo models, access to people that can make custom models to fit your product development needs. We have traditional long strength in bio oils. That's either production methods from plants, from microorganisms, including algae, or extraction from waste streams. We have projects going on in all those spaces. We're looking at bioconversion, bioprocessing, that's enzymology, to help get protein and other value-added products from waste streams. We have projects active in that. We have a lot of specialized facilities like the other presenters presented today. We've made investments in lipids and oils. Nutritional lipids and oils represents about 1/3 of our work. We have deep expertise in characterizing these types of products and bringing new types of products to market. There's a major theme in our industry in terms of the need and growth of protein sources, and we're looking at developing means of getting protein and biomass effectively and efficiently for these types of applications. We've invested in technology to advance our skin health care support, whether it be high-content screeners to help with wound assays, do those effectively, or 3D tissue models. We can do those for our clients. Animal models and other types of in vitro screens for metabolic disease. Quality and safety, where we're doing analytical methods and biological methods to help with product safety. And we've invested in extraction technology, in particular supercritical CO2, ultra high pressure, to get high value ingredients out of products. We have 3 different research partnership streams, how you can work with the NRC. We do provide a lot of technical service for our clients. They come to us with a technical problem. We plug and play and answer that technical problem for them for a fee for service. But what the program really offers for opportunities here is that we can actually co-invest with you, work alongside with you on the development of either new functional ingredients and or building new enabling technologies. And this is something that you can work with us, and we have a number of those different projects going on. So the benefits of partnering with NRC, particularly for this program, is really to help you decrease accelerating product development timelines and decrease your costs. We wanted to have new enabling technologies, that's new methods that help you get products to market. We can help you with the financial risk there. We have a team that does that on a day-to-day basis, developing those technologies. We like to support health claims, and we're looking at helping you develop novel and differentiated products, which is something that's very important to us. We have projects going on in 9 of the 10 provinces now. Some of our client list is shown here. And as an example, just because they're in the news this week, Technology Crops is a large US-based company, $100 million in sales, that we attracted to take a presence in Canada. We've supported them in their growth, and recently we developed a method for them to help them with their grass application for their new fish oil substitute, this ahi flower oil, an all-natural stearidonic acid-based plant oil that's coming to market. So they got their grass application through last week, and we're very happy that they're being successful. We also work with large companies, where large companies might have their own internal R&D engines, but they can come to us with the sticky, hard problems in terms of that. So we also do that type of work all the time with our clients. So in terms of a summary, this is the last slide I have. So NRC is really, we're working with all different sizes of companies, small, medium, and large. We're looking to develop natural health products and functional ingredients that are utilizing Canadian biomass. It's a sweet spot for us. We'll invest more there. NRC is also focused on preclinical sciences. That's what we're good at. And that's what we do within the value chain. We can partner to access other areas of the value chain as well, including food technology centers and clinical providers. And we're leveraging our strengths and what we're really good at here at the NRC, and that's chemistry, biology, and bioprocessing. And really, it's all about driving differentiations, which is really needed in this industry when there's 30,000 SKUs on the shelf. So the outcomes really is going to be hopefully reduced product development cycles. We're going to develop over our 8-year program 8 new functional ingredients with our partners. We have 3 ongoing projects already now. We're going to develop 20 new enabling technologies. We completed 2. We have 3 more ongoing right now. And we're helping to drive differentiation through science, which is what really attracted me to work in this area. Thank you, and please answer any questions and/or talk to you during the networking session. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Stay up there, Bob, and if the others, Julie, Bernard, Jim, Maureen, Jean-Francois, if you could join me up front, and we could take a few questions from the audience. It is. We've got 2 sides of the podium here, guys. Sure. Got a remote mic here. Questions? I see Andrew over there trying to operate his mic.
Well,
We can hear you.
okay, so relatively simple question. What's the best way to get in touch with any one of the technical groups at NRC to discuss some sort of service arrangement?
You can look on the website to see maybe what is the most appropriate area and just call anybody and we'll direct you to the right person. But we can also get some cards with the business development people to help you. Anyone should be a conduit to you.
And I would add also that there's a 1-800 concierge service, which is the 1-800 number you call NRC. That's also available to you as a one-point contact. It'll get funneled to the right person again.
Yes, Dan.
Sounds great. Quick question, it's probably pretty easy for you to answer. You mentioned intellectual property a number of times where it's been licensed from you. Obviously representing a number of SMEs, concern is what happens to our IP, what happens to jointly developed IP, what is the process?
Who wants to answer that one?
So it's always discussed up front, right? There's going to be a rising in people. So the way we see it is that we're there to enable the company. So in terms of licensing, we look for what makes business sense when we're working with these small companies. And that's the guiding principle in all the licensing arrangements. If there's a rising IP, obviously if there are vendors from the NRC, it's going to be joint IP. We can come to an agreement that makes sense. And that's a guiding principle right now. Super. Thank you. Yeah, your IP stays your IP. We're not taking any IP away from it.
Other questions? Just have to push the button until it turns green.
Hello.
I hear you.
I'm with Foreign Affairs, Trade and Investment Canada. I've heard from many foreign delegates before that Canada's innovation ecosystem is very confusing and very complex, and because there's so many different actors. So when I made a note of NRC's main themes or goals was really helping SMEs reduce risks, save time from left to market, enhance ability to attract investors. The same could be said for different RICs, centers of excellence, incubators, accelerators. So I just wondered how what you do fits in with some of the other players out there, and if you collaborate with them, or if you're kind of operating separately, or how does it all work? How do you fit into the whole continuum of what Canada has to offer?
Obviously, innovation is it's a big problem, right? So there's really room for many players. That's the first thing I would say. So everybody needs to be collaborating, and that's not, we're not there to compete with one another, because Canada needs to compete with the world. So we have other problems that we should worry about. What differentiates us is that we are an engineering-based organization with labs. So we are not people who only give money, right? We are people who work with you to do things in our lab. And it is an organization of people with, PhDs who can work with you to devise the best innovative solutions. So compared to academia and CROs and incubators, it's a bit the difference. So we work a lot with companies and incubators, a lot, because they are one of our main clients. But, even though some of our sites may have some incubator space, that is not our primary business. That's not it. The goal is to work with the small companies to make them more successful. And some others may work with some of the people in the incubators with mentors or, all sorts of things that are complementary to try and help these companies. So sometimes, of course, centers of excellence, some of them are in academia where, you can really focus in a specific field. For us, it's more on the product and technology development, a lot more applied science than you would find in academia. I don't know if someone else has something to add.
Well, we have been working very closely with CSERs, and generally speaking, CSERs are involved in helping businesses grow and commercializing technology. But as you mentioned, they're not really involved in product development and in the R&D part. And that I find is where we often augment and complement with CSER centers of excellence that I'm just doing in business.
Yeah, I would say, just to reiterate on the complementary aspect here, because Jean-Francois said we work with Caesars, but we bring the core expertise that we have. When we work internationally, we work with together with the other groups as well, where we provide the expertise that we have, as Julie mentioned. We have labs, we can do work with those partners, but then we want to bring together or work with the other groups here in Canada that also can provide some value to that interaction.
I'd like to add just a little bit too there. I think one of the important parts of our programs is not only are the deep and specific dives, but we had to demonstrate that we are unique in what we're offering across the innovation landscape in Canada with more than 500 entities apparently. We also are measured by the company's success. So that's how we have to continue to grow. So rigorously reviewing, bringing to reviews. So that's a very important element of that. So we're measured on success of our companies that we're supporting.
Rick, you had a question?
Yes, for Bernard, I enjoyed your presentation that many of us have lived through manufacturing being closed in Canada, like the Caesar reversal. You mentioned that there's, and I like the strategy of using the sort of the biologics and the close proximity. You mentioned there's 30 opportunities that are forthcoming where you see this happening. How close are we? Can you share some insights about, can you see some facilities going in Canada?
Yeah, we have ongoing.
Just tease us.
We have ongoing negotiation for some of the SMEs we're working with and the CMO. Some of the deal hopefully will be finalized in the coming months, but we cannot say much more about what companies and what molecules involved because this is all confidential stuff. But that's the plan, and I'm hoping that right now it's very difficult. Is to get the first few ones out of the game, because one of the reasons why SMEs will often go outside because they will use established CMOs because it reduces the risk and everything. And if you want to launch that kind of initiative in Canada and the track record of the CMO is not very strong in the area, it's very difficult to really overcome that hurdle. We're trying to facilitate that as much as we can, and we're hoping that only we'll have a few that actually are executed and get built on those cases. Then the other one will perceive the risk lower, and eventually it will grow, because if you look at the number of molecules coming in the pipeline, it's very significant.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Liliana, Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development. And the presentations were excellent. I really enjoyed the very multifaceted work that they're all doing in one organization. The question I have is, on average, how long does it take for a joint collaboration with the company, for example, to reach a prototype. Or, I was wondering that as well as the criteria which you choose a partner, how do you decide on whom or which company you're going to work with, and also your association with IRAP, because many of the companies here may have or may know of technology bias that we have across Ontario, and the Department of Foreign Affairs, we've been working very closely with them in trying to move companies through that commercial spectrum into international markets. So, thank you.
Thank you. So maybe some of you can take bits of the question, and I'll start with Henry. So in the past, I would say the 5 years ago or something, IRAP and the R&D organization of NRC were working very separately. And actually, IRAP advisors were giving money, but were not specifically knowledgeable about what was going on at NRC. That has changed, or is changing. It has changed certainly in human health. In other areas, I suppose that it is changing, and some others might be changing right now. So, with the rebranding of NRC as a research and technology organization, that's where you'll get the most impact. And we have data from around the world where there are some other organizations like that in Finland or in Germany, like for example. And you get the biggest impact for a country when you have the IRAC tank work and the R&D, RTO tank work working together. It's the type of thing that, 1 + 1 gives 3 type of thing. So we're working really hard at increasing the links and making sure that the IRAC advisors are really aware of what we can offer. So that when they talk with the company and are successful in getting funding for a small company, then they say, well, for example, at NRC you have this, but also everywhere else, right? But you have to be able to suggest to the company the best place to do something. And you should not refrain from saying it's NRC because you don't want to be seen as being subjective to the company. If our organization is the best you can find in Canada and I would say even internationally for bioprocessing, then you should really come to us. We work with all the big ones, Merck, GSK, Pfizer, we work with all of them. So there's no reason that we're not good enough for an SME, we're good enough for all the big pharma. So choosing a partner, it has to be the right fit. So if a company is working in an area that's not our core expertise, well, we wouldn't drop everything and then hire new people and build something, right? You cannot be everything to all people. You have to focus. And so our focus is large molecules. So of course, you wouldn't come to medicinal chemistry. However, in some areas, because we're very big, for example, in neuroscience, because of blood-brain barrier program, maybe you can be working with a small molecule, but you need some sort of imaging or input as to how you cross the blood-brain barrier, then of course that would make sense also. So it's all a discussion. We do not refuse anything just like that. We always talk. Always. And it has to make sense for the company, primarily, because we're there as a non-profit and open company, and then it has to make sense that it fits with the organization. And the third part of your question was the timelines, and that varies tremendously, as you can imagine, in biotech, in terms of developing a new vaccine or a new biologics, it's long, right? So for biologics, the discovery part is much quicker than for a small molecule, but you have to do all that bioprocessing and the developability that adds a little bit of time. For medical device, we're told that it's like in fast, but maybe you
So medical devices, honestly, we are looking at quite varied types of applications. You saw the breadth of expertise. So it very much depends on what technology readiness level the technology comes in. Right? So in some cases, it's very early stages. We're helping them do some fundamental research work on how to execute that product. In other cases, we had examples where a company came in, they had acquired a product, and they brought these two technologies and said they don't talk to each other. They
we just did a very short project where we bridged the gap. So those are examples. So, we do show the expertise on it. So what Julie said is that we have some areas of core expertise, but we also have very, very bright people who can be used to answer pointed, and also may not be obvious from where we are right now. And obviously, again, you tap into the NRC, you tap into 3,000 people. So the best approach is give us a call. So unfortunately, I am going to have to stop the questions there, but please join me in thanking our speakers this morning. We just have a few announcements. Sorry, if you could bear with us, we just have a few announcements to go through. First of all, I just want to remind you all that we are undergoing our annual membership renewal cycle. So if you are an LSO member, don't forget to renew. You can talk to Sue at the registration desk, or you can renew on our website online. If you're not a member, you can certainly do so. Sorry, I'm getting waved over there. Sorry. Okay, thank you. There's lots of materials at the back from the NRC there available for folks that have some additional questions. Couple announcements. It was mentioned by one of our speakers this morning that our LSO Annual Awards Gala is coming up at the end of February. One of our award winners, Dr. Louis Barretto, is here. Congratulations again, Louis. Well deserved. So please, if you haven't got your tickets for that, do so as well, either at the reg desk or online. And sponsorships are available for that as well. Our next breakfast is in February, and there will be Game Changers in Agriculture. It's a video series that was put together by Gord Surgener. It's a very interesting series about technologies developed in Ontario, real success stories. So it'll be a fun one to attend. We do have a series of upcoming breakfasts after that. In March, it will be our annual general meeting. We are now in the process of securing a fairly well-known speaker. I haven't fully confirmed them yet, but stay tuned for that. I think it'll be of interest to this group. So a little bit of a teaser there. And then we'll continue on with our next our breakfast series. We have a networking night, again, hosted at our regular venue, the Marche Restaurant in Brookfield Place. That will be following a board meeting that's happening on February 3rd. So if you're available and you're in the downtown area, please join us for that event. It's free to attend. Just register online. And as always, we're constantly looking for mentors for our mentorship program. If you're interested in mentoring a young science graduate, this is the place to go, and please do so. We would appreciate your support. Finally, thank you to our sponsors, City of Toronto, KPMG, Sanofi Pasteur, RxD, Richmond Hill, Ernst & Young. And I'd also like to say a very special thank you again to Avid Biologics. And I want to finish with something that David Allen put into an email when he was requesting this sponsorship. He said that he wanted the recognition of Avid Biologic to be as a company that has been privileged to have a profound working relationship with NRC and impressed by the breadth and depth of the organization's skill sets and the enthusiastic vigor of the people involved with this project. I think we saw that on display this morning. So thank you again to Avid Biologics and Faskins for hosting, and to all of you. Final message. We have to vacate this room because there's another event. But that said, we still want some networking. So they have moved us into the atrium. So feel free to move out into the atrium, continue your networking. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Okay, picture and then see. Jason, do we have 2 minutes for a picture of the NRC? Definitely. So I'll put them all there. NRC speakers.